Well, I love celery and I'm sure you do too, but I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping I'd find at least a few sticks of red or blue celery. Red or blue celery? You think I'm crazy? Haven't you ever seen it? Have a look at this. Here's some blue celery. Specks of blue on the leaves and a faint bluey green in the stem. Well, I want some red celery right now, and here's how you get it. You don't buy it from the shop, you make it. You start with a stick of very yellowy, greeny, white celery from the centre of the bunch. There we are. Take out a stick like that, and then with a knife, sharp knife, cut it off level at the bottom, and then simply stick that in some red water. And to make that, just pour ordinary water into a glass and add a few drops of red food colouring. And what happens, of course, is that coloured water will now go up the stem of the celery. And within half an hour or so, you'll have red celery, or blue celery if you start with blue water. Why does it happen? Well, I'm glad you asked. It has something to do with the little tubes that are inside the stem of the celery. Think of a glass tube first of all. This one's from an eyedropper. If I place this in some coloured water, you watch what happens inside the tube. Place it down inside the coloured water. You'll notice, you may be able to see, that the water level inside the tube has risen slightly higher than the water level outside. That's part of the secret about why the liquid goes up the stem. That's a fairly thick tube. Let's see what happens if we get a much, much thinner tube. And I can make one by taking some glass tubing and heating it in a flame until it gets very, very hot. I know when the flame goes orange that the glass is getting soft. Look how soft and bendy it is. So it's almost ready to make a thin tube of glass. All I need to do is to pull it out of the flame and then stretch it very quickly, like this. And in doing that, I can get a very long, thin tube of glass, but it's still a tube. It has air going right through the middle. It cools down very quickly. Snap it with my finger there, placing the hot piece of glass down on a plate, and I can also snap it down here. And I have a very long, very thin tube of glass. Now watch what happens when I dip this into coloured water. You'll see something occur very, very rapidly and much more dramatic than the thick tube. Here goes the little thin tube down into the coloured water, and very rapidly the red water climbs up the tube. Look how far it's gone now. Right up to that point there. Risen many, many centimetres. And that's one of the reasons why the coloured water can climb up the celery stem, because there are very thin tubes in there. But it's only one of the reasons. There are other things happening as well. There are things happening in the roots of a plant that's growing that tend to push the liquid up, and there are things happening up in the leaves that tend to pull it up as well. Something even more important. Water molecules themselves tend to cling together. They like each other a lot. If I put a few drops of water on this board here, one there, another one a little distance away, and another one a little distance away, and if I push them into one another with a matchstick, they tend to cling together. There are millions of water molecules there, and they're all clinging together. It's a little bit like paper clips. Not separated, but clinging together so much that they become joined in a long line. And water molecules are something like that, particularly when you get them in a thin tube. So if you get movement at one end, they tend to pull one another up like the links of a chain. And that's the sort of thing that's happening inside that tube of celery, but also inside the tubes that go all the way up the stems of much larger plants, including very big trees. Well, we've seen how to start red celery. Same thing with blue celery. What about red and blue celery? Well, that's a fairly simple matter. All you do is take another stick of celery and this time cut it off like this and then split it down the middle with a sharp knife in this position here, and then simply stand it in two glasses, halfway into the red glass and halfway into the blue glass, like that, and leave that for a couple of hours. Well, here's one that's been going for 2 hours already, and you can see the effect that we've got. On the left-hand side of the stem, we have blue going all the way up into the leaves and blue specks in the leaves. On the right-hand side of the same stick of celery, we have a red colour in the stem and also red colour in the leaves. One other thing you can do is to take a section across a stem like that, and I have another one here, Cut one slice and then another slice fairly close to it. Then you can hold it up and look at it through a magnifying glass so that you can see just where those little tubes of coloured liquid are located. So you've found out something about the way in which liquids move through plants, transpiration.